I could never have played in a bun because my bun was like too heavy and it would fall right down my head.
I know. I always think about that with like, does Christy have?
I don't know how she does it. I think her sheer will and determination keeps her bun in place.
So that's us.
So
that's us.
That's that, Maddie. Thank you so much for writing in. I'd love to hear about your hair care routine. And if anybody knows why my scalp hurts, also let me know.
Hi, and welcome to Good Vibes FC. I'm Lynn Biondolo. What is my last name? Lynn Biondolo, coming to you from my Airbnb the last night. I will be sleeping in this thing.
Oh my goodness, Lynn Biondolo. It is so great to see you. I'm Sam Lewis. I'm coming to you from the Women's Game World Headquarters in Vermont. Good Vibes FC. What am I? John Hamm announcing the Super Bowl. Good Vibes FC. Oh my God. Good Vibes FC is presented by our great friends at Olipop. Today on the podcast, we're going to hear how Lynn's preseason is going with her new team in Seattle. Then we're breaking down the SheBelieves roster. We're also going to give our thoughts on the NWSL settlement fund that was announced last week. And finally, we're going to check our inbox. We've been hearing from you all, and it's just been an absolute treat. But before we dive in, I wanted to make sure to mention that we have a very exciting contest happening. The women's game is giving one lucky listener, it could be you, a Good Vibes hoodie and a $250 voucher to our store hosted on World Soccer Shop. The secret keyword will be said later in this show. So when you hear Lynn whisper it into your sweet little ears, drop it in the comments of our pinned Instagram post and you could be the winner. Make sure you're following both the Women's Game and World Soccer Shop, and good luck to everybody. All right, Lynn, speaking of John Hamm's voice cracking when he announced the Kansas City Chiefs and doomed them to defeat. Literally. Did you watch the Super Bowl halftime show?
I did watch a Super Bowl halftime show. Can I speak today? What's happening?
Apparently neither of us are doing too good.
I did. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was so sick. I love Kendrick Lamar. It was fun, and it was a incredibly powerful statement that I was like, I can't wait to read more about this and like learn.
Yeah, I think that there were like double and triple entendres in there. So like, if you got it, you got it. And if you didn't, you didn't. Like, that's how I felt about it. Because we came into the locker room today and some people were like, I just didn't understand it. And I was like, it wasn't meant for you. I thought the first half of the performance was like such a good visual. And then the second half was like a better performance, if that makes sense.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I thought it was incredible. I think that Kendrick Lamar is like so creative and smart. And I loved his jeans. I don't want to minimize the whole thing because it was really incredibly powerful and beautiful, but I did really also love his jeans.
Are you a flare girl now?
Yeah. And he just looked so cool just walking around, stomping around out there. I was like, let's go. Okay, well, what I do want to hear from you, we talked a little bit last week on our first Good Vibes episode back with Becky that you've moved to a new city. You're with a new team, the Seattle Reign. We heard that you're struggling with the cold a little bit, but I want to hear, how else is Seattle treating you besides the cold?
I have enjoyed it a lot. I think that there are so many things about Seattle that I didn't realize. I didn't realize how passionate people were about their nooks of parts of Seattle.
It's a neighborhood town.
Oh, yeah. People are very passionate about their own neighborhoods. So I have been able to get out a little bit and explore. And I guess when I think of Seattle before, I just thought Seattle downtown.
Yeah.
And now I realize that there's so much like culture and nookiness. I don't know. I can't think of another word right now.
Pockets.
There's so many different pockets.
I love nookiness though.
Thank you. There's so many different pockets, and it's like you cross the street and it's a new vibe across that street into that pocket of Seattle. So that's been great. The team has also been great. I am getting to know the girls, and I've just been having fun. I like feel very relaxed here and very happy.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's amazing. We did ask our followers for some recommendations and questions for you. So I'm going to go through some of those now. Speaking of nookiness, Hannah suggested that you take the water taxi out to West Seattle, was very adamant that West Seattle is incredible.
I have also heard that I need to take the water taxi. I think what I've understood, the people who live in West Seattle are very passionate about West Seattle. We will have to see when the weather is nicer, because let me tell you, I went by there. It was snowing. Everybody's like, the beach is there. The beach is there. It was like one teeny little strip of sand. So
Not impressed yet.
yeah, let's
But
see.
we'll wait.
Yeah, when it gets a little warmer, we'll check it out again.
Okay. Sheena suggested Pizzeria Pulcinella, and that one perked my ears right up. I'm interested in doing that when I come visit. We got a few questions as well. Erin N asked, are there specific players that you're excited to play with that will suit your style of play and help you continue to be the top goal scorer in the NWSL?
Jess Fishlock. I'm really excited to play with her. G, I'm excited to play with her as well.
G So Young.
Yeah. Jordan Heidema. Again, I've said this in so many different interviews, but for a long time, I think that Seattle's been missing somebody to like stretch in behind. And when I think of like Jess and G, like their through balls and their vision is incredible. And then Jordan, her ability to like finish and get in the box for like crosses and stuff. So
it's so funny that you bring up like this idea of midfielders and forwards being connected. One, because I know that you and I could never quite get on the same page. That is Lynn and Sam's friendship folklore. But we did get one more question from Brian, who asked, what makes for a perfect connection between a midfielder and forward where it seems like they can read each other's mind?
Well, it's also funny that you bring that up because I feel like we had to practice at it a lot, but also it came together always at the perfect time postseason.
Oh my God. I know.
Yeah. So it was like, it just clicked at the right time. I think knowing what the person wants, I guess, I'm just going to use me and you, for example, like you knowing my speed, me knowing like what type of balls you like to play, knowing how you operate in the pocket versus how I want to like stretch in behind, stuff like that, or the vice versa of that is, when I'm coming to feet, you got to go beyond. So just getting on the same page as the player next to you. And I think that you have to be like compliments of each other.
Well, I love that. I just hope and pray that Jess Fishlock and Ji So Young can give you what I so rarely could. And that's just somebody who understands and feeds the beast.
That was so strange of you to say because we literally played together for so long and won so many things. So clearly it clicked.
I know. We do click. Do you think we still click?
Yes.
Okay, let's get into the rest of the pod. I'm ready. I'm excited for this joke, Lynn. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We have SheBelieves coming up, a.k.a. SonnettBelieves. Do you know why? Because Sonnet is playing in her 10th SheBelieves tournament. She has won this tournament 7 times, everybody.
Do you think Alyssa's going to come out of retirement just to knock Sonnet down and be like, you can't be the sole SheBelieves winner?
I need you guys to win this tournament so that Sonnet stands alone. No offense to Alyssa. I freaking love that girl. But Sonnet with 8 is like unbeatable. She deserves it. So the roster for the tournament was literally just released today, and the U.S. Women's National Team are heading to Houston, Glendale, and San Diego next week, where they will play against Colombia, Australia, and Japan. Lynn, obviously, you're invited to camp, so congratulations. I know you got your invite about a week ago, but did you have any anxiety about getting called in?
No, I just feel like at this point in my career, coach is either going to like what I have to offer or not. And I feel like in my career leading up into this moment, I've been so stressed about that and like try to be somebody else that I'm not and say like, what can I do? And all these things. And I can just be Lynn. So for the first time, I'm like, well, I've shown you what I can do. You either want that or you don't. And I'm going to have to be okay with whatever the outcome is.
Yeah. That's like, it's so cool to hear you say that because I feel like I never got to that place in my career because it kind of got cut short. And I feel like it would have been, and I'm so happy for you that you're here because kind of getting to that place of like, I'm not scrambling to like impress anybody. This is what I have to offer and I believe in it. And having that kind of quiet confidence that isn't anxious or desperate or scared, I think would have made me play so much better.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I do think that you are really, really good though with your anxiousness. So
true. Anxiousness is what makes me
so
special.
If you didn't have that, like I actually think you might go the other way. I don't know. It was like kind of a bit of your superpower. Like,
oh my God.
I don't know. But if you were going to play better without it, then like that was also going to be like a scary Samantha.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can just all imagine. I know you've been going through this kind of huge transition. We touched upon you're in this new city, Seattle. You're in a new club environment. How are you like now shifting to another new environment? Like you kind of have a lot to wrap your head around right now. Is it hard to go back and forth between club and country, especially at a time like this?
Well, you know, Sam, like I think that when you've done it for so long, like you get better at going back and forth. Obviously, I'm in a new club and Emma is new to the national team. I think I'm more comfortable because I've been in camps with her. It's not like this is my first camp with her, so I kind of know what's going to happen. But you also get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's just the ability to, one, stay comfortable, find the little things that remind you of like home or like keep you grounded, but also being able to like compartmentalize.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the roster is Jane Campbell and Mandy McGlynn as the goalkeepers, and then the defenders are Tierna Davidson, Crystal Dunn, Emily Fox, Tara McCown, Jenna Neiswanger, Emily Sams, Emily Sonnet, and Giselle Thompson. In the midfield, we have Corbin Albert, Sam Coffey, Lindsay Horan, Claire Hutton, Jaden Shaw, and Lily Johannes. And then for forwards, we have Lynn Biondolo, Michelle Cooper, Kat Macario, Yasmin Ryan, Emma Sears, Ali Sentnor, and Alyssa Thompson. We're seeing this list for the first time. What stands out to you about it?
Okay, so many things stand out. 2 keepers.
Yeah.
Usually, historically, there's been 3.
On a 23-player roster. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see. And Jane is back, which I think is very exciting. So I'm just to see like how the games get split between the 2 of them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So the goalkeepers are Jane Campbell and Mandy McGlynn. That is formerly Mandy Hott, in case anybody's wondering about that name change. The goalkeeper position has kind of been the talk of the townland. We all know that Alyssa Nair retired from international duty. There's been other speculation around Casey Murphy, who has a lot of caps. Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who's actually going into camp as a training player. But you're right to point out that kind of seeing only 2 keepers here on a 23-player roster is unique and super interesting, and kind of like who's Emma leaning towards?
Yeah, I am interested to see what happens there. Does anything else stand out to you?
I think looking at like the balance of players who are on the Olympic roster, there's 12 players who won gold at the Olympics, but there are a couple of players who weren't, both like players who have been in the system a lot, like Kat Macario, Lily Johannes has been in and out a little bit. But then like really newer players who I'm really excited about, Yasmin Ryan. There's 4 uncapped players, 19-year-old Claire Hutton, 22-year-old Michelle Cooper, who are both coming from Kansas City. And then there's Giselle Thompson, who is Alyssa Thompson's sister. They are actually the 3rd pair of sisters to make a roster together. Me and Christy were included in that. And then Tara McCown is a really interesting uncapped player. She used to be a forward. She plays for the Washington Spirit. She was Iron Woman for them in 2024. And I think kind of the big thing that people are going to point out about this is that Triple Espresso, Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Mel Swanson are not on this roster again for a variety of physical and personal reasons.
Yeah, I think that obviously that's like going to be the talk of the town.
Talk of the town.
Talk of the town.
It's the second time we've said that today. I think we should keep saying it.
The little espresso beans will not be with us. But I do think looking at this roster, there is definitely like a good balance of young and old, and by old, I mean veterans. And I'm excited to see how it all comes together. I think there's like a lot of very talented people on this roster, and it's going to be a very competitive camp.
For sure. I agree with that. I want to get into a little bit like what this tournament means for the team. So like you mentioned, the Women's World Cup is in 2027. That feels far away. 863 days. Now I'm doing what the coaches always do, and I'm laying it out. That's 2 more Super Bowl halftime shows, maybe 6 seasons of Survivor, 122 weeks of Sunday Slop. But I think what's interesting about this roster is that it is like this blend of veterans, young players. It's kind of suggesting that a lot could change in the next 2 years. So from you, Lynn, I'm interested. Obviously, you guys want to win. Like, that's always important to the national team. Are you feeling like this is more of a tryout for this next cycle? Or like this is a normal U.S. Women's National Team tournament where we're here to win and showcase how good we are?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think anytime you come into camp, you are trying to impress, and you're trying to say the qualities that I have, you need. It is in U.S. soccer and in our nature to say it's a tournament, it's a game, doesn't matter. We are going to go out and we are aiming to win. But I think it's an opportunity, and instead of like a friendly where you get to play the same game, same team twice. So you play somebody one time and then you get to figure out what went wrong, what went right, and then you kind of correct it for the next game. It's tournament mode. So you kind of get like a sneak peek of how players will operate in a very condensed but smaller tournament. And I know it seems like much further away. So you're like, well, why do it right now and not closer? Like, you'll get closer, but people need experience and they need time. So they're not just thrown into an Olympics and it's like, this is their first time ever experiencing a tournament. You start that now. And so I think that like, it's a little bit of both. It's like prep. It's like trying to compete and showcase and also get the experience of a tournament.
I know. I always remember, like, you know, when we were younger and you would like try to explain to somebody on an airplane, like what you did for work or like where you were going. And you would kind of just be like, yeah, I'm like always trying out for this team. Like, I'm not actually on it. And I think that that is kind of the culture of the team where everybody's performance matters just as much in one of these SheBelieves games as it does in practice the day before. And 100%. At the Olympics last year and in the NWSL season in 6 months from now, like, you're constantly being monitored and being evaluated, and the coaches are kind of weighing where you belong in their system.
100%. It's did you say this where it's like, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished in the past?
Perhaps. You haven't said it yet.
I'm like butchering it. But like, I think of like, it doesn't matter how many championships you've won. It doesn't dictate the next championship. So it's like, it doesn't matter all of the things you've done on the national team before. It doesn't mean you're going to continue to be on the team. It's like, you got to continue to perform and continue to show that you deserve to be there.
Yeah, it's so true. I want to pivot really quick and take a peek inside of Emma Hayes' head, who Emma is coming up on her second tournament with the U.S. Women's National Team. She's had more time to start integrating some of her ideas into this program. I mean, as we all know and have talked about a million times, Emma won gold at the Olympics, having only coached the team for 10 games. So that was like a mad dash to the Olympics. And now she has this longer runway to the next cycle. Jeff Kassouf shared a great article in The Equalizer about Emma's new blueprint for coaching the national team. She's calling it the WNT Way. And I was really interested to read about this because I've heard a lot about the way Emma's staff was really focused on the menstrual cycle while she was at Chelsea and how they implemented a lot of things around female health into their trainings and what they were doing like day to day. So this article that I'm referencing is laying out some of these ways that the U.S. Women's National Team program is going to start focusing on really creating systems that work for the women, not like doing things the way the men have done or just doing things historically how they've been done. And Emma's plan lays out the importance of getting stakeholders that are really involved in the team's training, like Nike, involved in this process, and then also the need for staff to be trained on the unique needs and even the unique tactical trends of female athletes on the women's game. I thought that was a really interesting component. And then there's also, Lynn, this component being laid out that involves more collaboration across playing environments, like between U.S. Soccer and the NWSL, for example. And I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about that.
First of all, I think that the whole thing is very interesting to me as well. Because I think it's the first time that anybody's ever said this like 360 approach. That's what she calls it. How she talks about it is like, we want to think about how we're doing everything through the lens of a female athlete. And I think that the world for the longest time has done it through the lens of a male athlete. And we're not like tiny men. Like, we are women. We have different hormones. We have different everything. I think that what is always troubling to me, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, is when you are like in your club environment and you're with your national team and they're not communicating to each other, and like you feel like the child of divorced parents, where you're like, I'm trying to please both of you and you aren't helping me. Like, I'm not doing anything right. And so you're like, can you guys just communicate to each other? Can you guys get on the same page about what I'm doing? Because if I do X, then my club is upset. And if I do Y, then the national team's upset. So I don't know what you guys want from me.
Yeah, there has never been like a holistic what's best for Lynn. Let me, US Soccer, work with Seattle Reign, work with, even if Lynn had a personal coach or something, it's like, let's come to a conclusion about what's best for the players by, putting their national team training up against their club team training, figuring out how much distance they've covered, figuring out what their schedule and travel schedule has been like. And the creation of like a group to handle that has been needed for so long. So I'm so excited to hear that Emma wants to do this.
Me too. And this obviously isn't a point right now, but I think that we've talked about in the past, like how many injuries people have been getting. And I think that that's part of it, is nobody's tracking how many miles, like jet miles and also on leg miles players are doing, because each entity wants the best. And so that I think that what happens is the burden always happens to fall on the players. What needs to be done, like you said, is just a bit of communication. So I'm really excited to see how this plays out. I'm hopeful that it comes in my playing career.
I do want to make something about me really quick. I do still think about kind of how I lost my career early all the time. And I do think that had there been better communication between US Soccer and my NWSL teams, I possibly could have had a longer career. I think that, like you said, Lynn, I was trying so hard to be everything for the national team, to play at the World Cup, to play at the Olympics. And then I was trying to play for the Courage and go to Man City and then play for Kansas City. And there's not any one person in there that did anything evil or wrong to me. It's that the whole system was not designed to help me with a chronic injury. It was designed to run me into the ground, and then I had to retire early. And that's not really like fair or good for any players to go through.
No, I actually think about that all the time too, Sam. And I think that you are like such an unfortunate case, but I don't think you're the only person that's happened to, and that's even more devastating. I know. And I like, not to make this about me, but I'm here too. It's like, I think about as well, it's like my hamstring injury in 22, and I'm like, that would have been 100% preventable had somebody tracked that. I feel very lucky enough that I was able to come back and play on that, but unfortunately, like you weren't lucky enough, and that shouldn't be on the burden of the player. It should be of the national team and the club teams to like communicate and get it together and say like what is in the best interest of the player, not in what's the best interest of us.
Right. What exactly? I totally agree with that. Well, Emma's plan that she wants to implement into US Soccer goes on to include better education around the menstrual cycle, more support for women in coaching positions, and a bunch of other ways in which women athletes can be better served. These are some huge ideas, which clearly we're all very excited about, and it's a huge undertaking. And I'm imagining that this is going to be supported in part by Michelle King's recent $30 million gift to US Soccer, which is aimed at improving the youth system, talent identification, professional development for the women's game, including players, coaches, and referees. Lynn, I'm curious if you've seen any of Emma's vision kind of already come to light during camp. Like, are there any methods or training things that you guys are already doing?
Yeah, well, definitely on the menstrual side, I think things are very apparent in camp right now, where making sure that we are tracking our cycle and what phase of the cycle we're in, and knowing that depending on the phase of the cycle, one, you need to like eat more protein or eat more carbs, knowing that if you are fatigued, there's like supplements you can take to help you counterbalance that, as well as, for example, like if you're lifting and normally you're able to lift a lot of weight and for some reason you're like, I can't lift this right now, you're actually getting the same amount of like stimuli, even though you're lifting less, because your body is under so much stress. So it's like you don't need to continue to push yourself. Like your body is already getting the stimulus of the lift at a lower weight. So that I think is really exciting.
Obviously, there's so much more to dive into with the national team, with SheBelieves, aka SonnettBelieves. I'm not going to let that one die. So we're going to dig into the tournament more on next week's episode of Good Vibes with Becky Sauerbrunn. We are also going to be doing a full Sammy Banana Phone episode covering everything SheBelieves. That's coming out next week. So call me with your questions about the tournament and the roster. You can call me at 855-611-4050. And one more plug for the women's game. Mark your calendars now, because we're going to be going live after every single one of the SheBelieves games with some very special co-hosts. I can't wait for you all to see who is joining me. We need to take a quick break, but when we get back, we'll be diving into the NWSL settlement fund and what it means for players and the league, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Let's pivot to the NWSL and the big news that came out last week about a settlement fund that was agreed upon by 3 attorneys general and the NWSL. We're pulling facts and quotes from Meg Linehan's article in The Athletic. 3 years after horrifying allegations of sexual harassment and emotional abuse in the league, attorneys general from the District of Columbia, New York, and Illinois found that this misconduct was systemic throughout the league. This settlement is the culmination of years and years of investigating. A lot of people may remember the Sally Yates report from 2022. That suggested reforms were needed. This is reforms being put into action, and it will be overseen by those attorneys general. So the NWSL and the AGs have agreed to a settlement, which includes the creation of a restitution fund of $5 million, which will compensate players who suffered abuse or harassment in the league. Lynn, I don't feel like we need to necessarily relitigate what happened or hash out, what those reports kind of detailed all over again. But I do want to talk through what this settlement fund means now and what it means moving forward. What was your reaction first on hearing about the settlement, and how have you of your teammates been talking about it?
Yeah, I actually haven't talked to any of my teammates about it, but my initial reaction was, 1, this is incredible, but 2, I had no idea that this case was even going on. I, on one hand, I don't think excited is the right word, because you would never want this to happen. I'm happy that somebody is being held accountable, but I'm also a little confused at the lack of communication. All I know is that I am also confused as a player. I know that we have a resource within the PA that says, and it's like a long list of like questions and answers. Who is like allowed to receive part of the settlement? How do they distribute the money? Like all of that stuff is.
So you've been communicated with since.
Yes, 100%. And that is, the communication has been very clear there. I want to make that very clear, that the communication after the fact has been very clear. Again, I had no idea this was even happening.
Now, I'm glad that you are now getting this information, but I think what we can focus on is the NWSL Players Association. I really want to talk about the way that the players have come together to ensure that the people responsible were held accountable, and then the league, which is also responsible, is being held accountable with this settlement, and that this will never happen again in the NWSL. There are these new guardrails being put in place, and those guardrails and kind of safety precautions are going to be overseen by those AG offices. Some of those guardrails include requiring teams to hire mental health staff, the implementation of new channels to confidentially report abuse, and then also thorough background checks on coaches and athletic trainers. All of that's being overseen through these compliance and misconduct reports that the NWSL has to report back to the AGs every 6 months. I am proud of the NWSL Players Association. I'm proud of all of the players who ensured that these new safety mechanisms would be met and maintained by either coming forward and speaking out or working tirelessly behind the scenes to, enable the Players Association to make this settlement happen on our behalf. We both entered the league in 2015 in Western New York. We didn't really have clear reporting channels, or we didn't really have mental health staff for a long time in our careers. What has your experience of like HR been in the league?
There was nothing ever talked about. You didn't know who to report to. You think you should report to the coach, but then it's like if the coach is doing something, then you report to the GM. But it was like this weird power dynamic. I think now, since we have this anti-harassment policy that is in place and clear channels, in locker rooms, there is call this person if you call this person if, and it's posted everywhere. You also have a player safety officer. It's there's a real response where you can anonymously respond and go online if something is happening, if you want to report something, and then immediately you'll get a response back to say, we got your report, we will be contacting you, blah, 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 blah. There are now so many more channels of how you're supposed to report things, and it's very clear. You have a meeting about it every year, at the beginning of every year, of what are the steps taken. And so I think this is very exciting, but at the same time, it's sad that it took this long.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what I'm hearing, things have improved even since I was last in the league, but obviously so much since 2015 and 2013 with the league's inception. You mentioned years ago, not knowing who to report to because there is this weird power dynamic. And I think that's something else interesting we should talk about. It's like, I think I felt like less vulnerable than other players. But when you think about a player who is really fighting for time, fighting to be on the roster, fighting for their contract, they become more vulnerable to the types of abuse that were depicted in this Sally Yates report because they are relying on the coach and the GM. Their career is in somebody else's hands. And that power dynamic becomes really dangerous. And I think I just wanted to kind of state that clearly, that like players should never be put in a position where they have to say they're uncomfortable to somebody who's like holding their career in their hands.
100%. I think that you see that all the time too. I think of like USA Gymnastics, like they're preying on the people's dreams as well.
Yeah.
And their goals and their wants. And when you have somebody that you have to trust to have your best interest at heart, because if we like it or not, like the coach is the person in our sport who dictates your playing time and who dictates if you're on the travel roster. And obviously there are more coaches that go into that decision, you hope, but at the end of the day, it's the head coach that makes that final decision. And so if that person has ill intentions, it's just so disheartening in seeing that like there's not much you could have done about it.
And when the power is so like centrally located, it doesn't feel like there is anywhere else to go. The PA kind of has our back, and I think we've come a long way. We now have these protections and these reporting structures. But it's something that's still relevant today is that like front office and support staff don't have a PA. And we know firsthand, people that we've worked with have felt vulnerable to similar abuses that players were vulnerable to. And I hope that this settlement in a way can open the door to ask more questions. Like, where are the protections for the front office staff and the support staff? I really am just feeling this like gratitude to our Players Association and to the power that comes with sticking together through moments like this, and what's possible when players can speak up knowing that all of the other players have their back and that we're like kind of all in it together.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've firsthand experienced that in so many different ways of just like the unifying of players.
The equal pay lawsuit.
Exactly. And just like sticking together, and as uncomfortable and scary as that is, I think that so many like blessings have come out of this. Obviously, like just the NWSL kind of like got filet-fished open. It was like, this is all the bad, and we are in a moment where we're getting all of that out. And I think that the PA is stronger than ever, and it's going to continue to grow and continue to push. And the settlement fund is like another thing that's awesome. And so I don't know. I think that they're doing a great job. Obviously, it's so new and it's so like so early on in its inception, but we're getting there. So yeah. I'm just interested to see how this continues to play out, the settlement fund, who gets what. And I hope that players, even though like you can never really right that kind of wrong, people feel a little bit of more peace to be able to like move forward with their lives if they haven't already.
To summarize what has been an eye-opening conversation, and one that it demonstrates that we all have more to learn about this, I think what I will say is that I'm grateful that these guardrails are being put in place. And to me, safeguarding women athletes against abuse and harassment is what protecting girls and women in sports looks like. I think that there is this illusion going on right now that by attacking trans athletes, we're protecting girls and women in sports. But this actually is what protecting girls and women in sports looks like. It's creating safe reporting mechanisms. It's doing background checks. Like, there are clear methods to protecting our athletes, also protecting trans and non-binary athletes competing in women's sports. So I just will go back one more time to the importance of the Players Association. I think all players associations in whatever league should be inspired by that collective power that we have when we come together and use our voice as one. Obviously, this whole situation would have never come to light if it wasn't for the brave players who spoke up. Also, to the dedicated women's sports journalists who shared their stories. We're so grateful for the writing that's being done about all the news in women's soccer world, and we just want to remind everybody that the best way to support those writers is to read their work. So we'll post a link to the article that we've referenced really heavily here, and again, we're really grateful to the reporters for their dedication to sharing the truth. All right, everybody, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are checking our inbox for a really fun email, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Good Vibes FC. It is time now for our Women's Game Weekly updates where we cover all the other news you need to know. Before we do that, we have the top secret keyword for our World Soccer Shop giveaway. This is what you are going to comment on our pinned Instagram. Lynn, the next word you say is the secret keyword.
Oh my gosh. No pressure.
Is it, oh my gosh, no pressure?
Yeah, it feels like that. Well, you should have warned me.
Lynn, the next word you say is our secret keyword.
What if I just didn't say a word?
You're giving
me 2 seconds. I don't know what a word should be a cool word. I'm trying to think of any cool word. We talked in the car. You could have warned me about this in the car.
I thought that this was going to be fun, Lynn, and instead it's torture.
Do you have a word in mind?
I just keep thinking peanut brittle.
What?
Exactly. That's what it should be, something weird like that.
Okay, I'm thinking Goldie Hawn.
So do you want it to be Goldie Hawn?
No, I want it to be Michigan Geniality.
Okay. Lynn, the next word you say is our secret keyword.
It's miscongeniality.
Okay, everybody.
Because I just watched that movie.
It didn't take us very long at all to figure out that secret keyword, but drop miscongeniality in the comments of our pinned Instagram post. It's the picture of me, Becky, and Lynn all wearing the merch. You could be the winner of the sweatshirt and the $250 to World Soccer Shop. Okay, now we're going to get into the biggest stories around the soccer world. First, we have a quick NWSL update. In a true plot twist, Midge Purce is staying in Gotham on a one-year deal. It feels like 2023 NWSL Championship MVP Midge Purce and Gotham have had such a will they, won't they relationship ever since Midge began talking about exploring other NWSL options. We actually saw her do this on screen in her reality show, The Off-Season, which depicted her off-season training before the start of the 2024 season. Sadly, Midge ended up tearing her ACL early in the season with Gotham. Then her contract expired in December, and she's kind of kept us all on the fence. It's just a one-year deal, though, so Midge seems to be keeping her options open as the league is going to change next year with 2 expansion teams. Lynn, do you have any thoughts on the Midge drama?
I am assuming Midge is happy with the contract, just knowing where she is on the soccer field. She's just coming back from her ACL. Gotham, I'm assuming, has also done her rehab up to that point. So staying in a situation that you are familiar with after coming off of a terrible injury, I think is probably what she and Gotham both felt was the best for her. And so I wish her all the best. I wish them all the best. I think that if they're happy, we're all happy.
There was another subject that I want to talk about this week. I'm feeling like, Lynn, in a good way, and I'm saying this because all, rising tides lift all boats. I feel like leagues are just kind of one-upping each other. So for example, they'll announce this big new signing or this big new stadium or something really cool. But it's kind of like shots getting fired back and forth the pond. Maybe the NWSL announces something really cool. Maybe the WSL announces something really cool. Leagues are just kind of, beep-bopping back and forth, announcing all this cool stuff. And they're kind of fighting to have all the best players play in their league, play for their team, but that's making clubs more incentivized than ever to make improvements and make investments. So it's shots fired, but in a good way.
100%. I mean, we talked about this with Becky. I don't think this is bad at all. I think that when you raise the stakes, it just pushes the world of soccer to raise the stakes as well and invest in women. If you want to keep your players here, you got to keep investing in them.
Exactly. So, as we saw the WSL make all these huge moves in the January transfer window, they signed Naomi Girma, Caroline, Jenna Neiswanger. We're kind of tracking what's the NWSL going to do in response. And the Portland Thorns stepped up for all of us. They drew up their new training facility. So Portland Thorns have this brand new training facility that they just announced. They're going to share it with Portland's new WNBA team, who will be playing in their first season in 2026. This is very, very exciting news that Portland has announced this. And I think to your point, Lynn, it's going to incentivize more players to want to play in the NWSL. It's an incredible facility. And it's this incredible attraction to Portland and to the league.
I know. I think I go back to when we were both in Kansas City, and I think there are some markets that you need to sell, and there's other markets that, New York, for example, it's like,
Yeah.
you got New York. And one thing that like really drew me, and I'm assuming you, to Kansas City, and then obviously both of us got injured, is just the facilities and the ability to come in and just like not have to worry about anything else, but just think about soccer or just think about how you're going to get better that day. And it was like you had breakfast there, you had lunch there, you had your treatment there, you had your locker room, there was like recovery. And so to have something that is just yours, and then fast forward, like I remembering that season, the beginning of the season before we had that facility wasn't going well, and then it was almost as if like the second we got that, the
We
season
like started winning.
And it's like when you have ownership of something and you feel like it's yours and your house, and you have all of these like modalities at your fingertips, it's just really cool, and it draws people to want to go there and play there.
I like totally agree. The Kansas City training facility and stadium are such an attraction. And that brings us to our Olipop gut check of the week. Lynn, if you could make one outlandish demand for your team that would attract players to come and play, what demand would you make?
Well, I want to hear yours first while I'm thinking.
Well, if I was still a player, my demand would be doggy daycare. And you could just drive with your dog to practice, leave them in a little dog park. There would be a little dog, babysitter. And then they'd get fed, they'd get treats, they'd get exercise, they'd watch practice. You'd get to go give them a little visit and a little cuddle. And then all of the dog people who, like, we know we're all out here being great soccer players would want to come to my team.
Do you bring your own carer to the doggy daycare, or was one provided?
No, it's provided.
Okay. Do you think you'll be able to focus?
Yes. I'll focus way better if I can see Finn, because I'll know that he's safe.
Oh, you can see him, or he's like inside and you're like, he's just right there.
Either way, I would focus better because I would know that he's like safe and happy. Okay, what would yours be?
Mine would be, there should be a team Uber account.
Oh.
I should have like 10 Uber rides on the club a season. Yeah.
I think you're thinking too small. Like you could have like black car service to, and like always like you have a driver, like that could be your outlandish. This is an outlandish request. Like, get a driver.
This is my thing. I don't know why you're trying to take over it.
Because you didn't think big enough. You want 10 free Ubers.
Okay, I want more. I want an unlimited amount of Uber rides.
All right, everybody. That's our Olipop Gut Check of the Week. Fans, I need you to let us know in the comments what outlandish thing you think your team should implement, and please make it better than 10 free Uber rides per player. So we didn't have any WSL league matches this weekend, but we were still treated to the 5th round of the FA Cup. We saw WSL leaders Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, and Man City all move on to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. We also had Liverpool, Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace move on from the WSL as well. And the lone championship team, Sunderland, who are actually sitting in 6th place in the championship division, they made it as well. The quarterfinals for the FA Cup are March 8th and 9th, and the final will be played at Wembley Stadium on May 18th. Lynn, we've been talking about so many different cups in England, and I was wondering if you think you have them all straight in your head.
No, but the good thing about that is that you put that weekly, what is it called?
We put on an explainer video, Lynn.
Yes, and I watch those, and it helps me.
Good. Well, I'm literally so glad. If anybody else out there is feeling confused by all the cups going on in England, check out the Women's Game explainer video on our social media. We go through the difference between the WSL as a league, the League Cup, the FA Cup, and we also included the Champions League because it's just a lot going on over there. Speaking of Champions League, we got to see the quarterfinal draw last week, which will take place over 2 legs in mid-March. And the matchups are Real Madrid versus Arsenal, Wolfsburg versus Barcelona, Bayern Munich versus Lyon, and then Man City versus Chelsea. Lynn, I don't know if you saw this, but Man City and Chelsea drew each other for Champions League. Then they're also playing each other in the League Cup final and in the regular season of their league 4 times, all within 2 weeks.
I know. Bless them. That's tough. Beating a team.
Have you ever done that before? Played a team 4 times in a row for 3 different reasons?
No. Not that I can think of. In a row? No. Never. That's like unheard of.
It's crazy.
And it's like, that's going to be hard too, because you go back and then you start talking about tactics and you think of like, it's like a chess match.
Yeah.
You're learning new things about each other every time, but also you're changing things at the same time. So it's like you are playing the same team, but you're not playing the same team. And we're going to just see how it goes, because that's going to be a lot.
That is going to be a lot. All right, let's go over to the inbox. We got an email from Maddie that says, "Hi, Sam. I've had this question since the Olympics, and I'm realizing it's not just me thinking about it. As pro athletes who practice and work out daily and have at least one match a week during season, especially in high turnaround times during international competitions, how do you manage your hair care? Do you wash every sweaty day or use dry shampoo often, condition often, etc.? Thanks, Maddie." Lynn, I thought this was going to be such a great question for us each to answer.
Okay, well, hit me with yours.
Well, I no longer am a player, but I certainly do not wash my hair every day. Never have, never will. I'll wash my hair like probably every third day, unless it turns into like a rat's nest from like the humidity, or if I go swimming, I'll wash it.
How often are you swimming?
Probably every third day.
On the hair care schedule.
Right on my workout schedule follows that. No. My hair care schedule is just like out the window for me. Like I just like don't really deal with that.
Well, Sam, you were blessed with nice hair. Like really like, well, I think all hair is nice hair. I didn't phrase that right. But you were born with like a nice thick head of hair, and I feel like easy to manage.
Thank you, Lynn. I really, really appreciate that. What's your hair care routine when you're getting all sweaty out there?
See, the thing with curls is you have to wet them to make them look nice. It is tough out here when you're sweating, and also you're like, it depends. Like if I've slicked my hair back, I have to wash it. Because it has so much product in it. If I have just put it in a bun and I look crazy at training, I can just put it down and like wet it and put some conditioner in there to make it look spruced up for the day. So like I am always putting water or always putting conditioner on my hair, but I probably wash it every 4 days.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes I go longer than that, honestly.
Yeah. I would love to wash it less frequently, but my back of my scalp starts to hurt if I like get to day 4, my scalp hurts.
Really?
Yeah. Do you think people are going to write in and be like, you have this like horrible condition and you need to start washing your hair more often?
No, but I always am very envious of people who are like, this is my hair care routine and I don't wash it this day. And I like one time some man who was doing my hair at the salon, he was like, just don't put it in a tight bun and use all of these bobby pins. And I was like, sir, my hair's going to look crazy and be in my face and I can't see when I'm playing. Like, what are you talking about? So sometimes I get jealous of people who can just put it in a like not tight, loose bun and get their workout done.
Yeah. You know what? I could never have played in a bun because my bun was like too heavy and it would fall right down my head.
I know. I always think about that with like, does Christy have?
I literally couldn't tell you. I don't know how she does it. I think her sheer will and determination keeps her bun in place.
So that's us.
So that's us. That's that, Maddie. Thank you so much for writing in. I'd love to hear about your hair care routine. If you think that it's interesting, let us know. And if anybody knows why my scalp hurts, also let me know. Sadly, Lynn, this is the end of the show. We've done our best. Let's leave our listeners with a good vibe. I think I want my good vibe to be chicken noodle soup. I just feel like everybody can use some chicken noodle soup. And it's good, and it could be nutritious if you make it that way. And you know what? We all just need a little taste of childhood safety. You know what I mean?
Did you make slop yesterday?
No.
2 days ago? This Sunday?
We didn't. I'm hoping that when I get downstairs right now, Pat will have this week's slop made. We were a day late. I'm hoping that this week's slop is chicken noodle soup. That's why I'm putting that good vibe out into the universe.
My good vibe is gonna piggyback off of your good vibe, but it's like telling people what you want. And like, so I think that sometimes we get sad because we have this high expectation and we haven't actually told the person that we're expecting to do the thing, and then they let us down. So instead of that, let's just tell them what we want, and then we will be happy. And so that's my good vibe.
Good. I freaking love that. I want chicken noodle soup, and I am not going to shy away from telling everybody. Okay, everybody. Thankfully, that's it for this week's episode of Good Vibes FC. Are you subscribed yet? If you're not, please subscribe right now. It really helps us a lot. This show is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and it's on YouTube on the Women's Game YouTube channel, and we're all over social media. We're especially on Instagram at Women's Game MIB. This Thursday, we have an episode of Friendlies dropping with Sophia Huerta, Lynn.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It was so much fun to chat with her, so make sure you check that out on Thursday. And I also just wanted to wish everybody a very happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, happy Galentine's Day.
Love you.
Mean it.
Okay, I'm Sammy US.
And I'm Lynn Biondolo.
And we love you.
And we love you.
And goodbye.